I wanted to talk with you about the ballot, the ballot, the taxes that are on the ballot, and why they're important, which ones you agree with, which ones you don't agree with, and the difference that they can make to the city.
Well, I've never been a wallflower on the fact that I'm a basic service kind of guy. You know, there's things about me that would lead you to believe that I would support streets, which I do. It's a public safety issue. If we don't maintain the roads, we have a problem. Having sat on a council for several different cycles, it's fair to acknowledge the fact that no less than 3 different public works directors have said we can't keep up with the roads and the maintenance and the patchwork and the replacement work and things like this with a full 1 cent. So the idea that we're going to go down to 3/4 of a cent trying to maintain something that's 25% less. I think that's a bad idea for the citizens. I think it's bad for public safety, and I think we need to maintain the roads with a full 1 cent. That creates about $13 million. With regards to the PRSPS, $13 million is 1 cent. Now understand, as we live, breathe, and speak today, just O&M for the police department, no capital projects, just O&M. It's approximately 17 point some million dollars. So we're in the hole to begin with. And now that we understand via the court systems that we have no choice but to pay the liability, which we will pay the liability. The question is how we pay it. Well, if we take out of the general fund, or we take out of general government, etc., where does the money come from? Well, if you think of what I just said, we only have $13 million. 17 million, you're already behind the hole. You know, you're already in the hole. And then, you know, you add another fee on top of it. Where does that money come from? If we eliminated totally government in the city, if we eliminated totally library in the city, if we eliminated totally, I'm trying to think of what all that 13 gets paid for, but general government's one of them, library's one of them, police and fire is one of them,
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec is one of them, and then there's one other, and it might be the golf course, I can't remember for sure, but even if you took away everything but police and fire, you still don't have the money. And as we've seen in the past, to be dependent on the federal government or the state government for shared revenues and grants, that is not a viable way to plan for the city's O&M when it comes to public safety. So I support sending it to the voter. I would have liked a different question to the voter, but I lost that. And in a Republican form of government, one that you have 7 representatives in a democratic process that elected, this is what the majority, 6-1, wanted to send to the voters. Okay, I'll send that to the voters. This plan is better than no plan. No plan is catastrophic on this city. As of August 26th, we have to start planning what are we going to do come January 1st if 1, 2, 3, none of these things get passed. Now what? What's the plan? Okay, and that's where I'm at. With regards to the open space initiative, I've never been a wallflower on that. It's not that I don't like open space. I think we've used the streets open space bucket very well. We procured the rodeo ground, which actually kept a lot of the court systems here in Prescott, which is 400 jobs. So I mean, there was more to it than just deal with the horses and the cows and all of that. There's a whole lot to it. And if it passes, that's fine. I can live with that. If it doesn't pass, we're going to still maintain the open space we have as a liability. That's what an open space deal is. It's a liability. We still have to take care of it. We still have to make sure that wherever it is that we own is fire-wise and fire-safe. And I sometimes question the wisdom of owning open space outside of city limits that we neither have the manpower or the resources to manage and keep it entirely free from liability. So I do question that, but if the voters want us to do that, that's what'll be done.
There have been some advocates for having the legislature fix the problem with the pension fund before funding the unfunded liabilities.
You can't do that. The legislature can't fix this. This is in the Constitution. They're constitutionally protected. This would have what the legislature could do. The legislature could refer a ballot initiative to the voters. The voters can fix it. Only the voters can change the Constitution, not the legislature.
Evidently, the legislature might be able to allow the city to, the legislature could pass a bill that would allow the city to get funding that would be maybe of lower interest rates that would help pay it off sooner.
That would be similar to what we do with lower interest rate with WIFA loans for water issues, etc. And that very well could be an avenue. Is that the best avenue? One way or another, you still got to pay it. It doesn't matter who you borrow it from. I would have rather paid it off a lot quicker than to plan on taking 22 years. That's where the interest piles up, and that's where you spend an extra $100 million. I would have a tendency to hope that in the time frame that if it passes, that's what I'm hoping for it to pass, so we can go right back to work on a better plan to bring to the voters in the city of Prescott by charter. Anything we do has to go to the voters in this regard, to the voters if we're talking about a tax, a sales tax especially. I would like to go back to the voters and say, guys, we got a better plan. We're working with the legislature. We're working with people down in Phoenix. We're trying to work through Congress with Congressman Gozar. You know, there are other ways that we can approach this. We just, as we live, read, and speak today, we have to get over the hump of what happens on August 26th. How do you plan to run the city if you know you don't have the money that's necessary to run the city coming in?
Right. Some people have advocated allowing the city to declare Chapter 9 if the tax doesn't pass.
Is that Chapter 9 or Chapter 5?
I thought it was Chapter 9, maybe it's Chapter 5.
Well, there's a deal for municipalities, etc. No, that ruins your credibility, that ruins your bonding capability, that ruins your opportunities for different things. The city's not in a position to have to do that. What we are in a position to do is to try and figure out what other things can we do to try and get us over this hump without panicking. Panicking is the worst thing to do.
And so it's pretty much, a straightforward proposition.
Well, we owe the bill.
Right.
I mean, we owe the bill. And, any way you cut it, both ARS and PRSPS are guaranteed pension plans under the Constitution. If there's any changes on these things, it's got to go to the vote of the public. It's not something I can do or something the city can do. It's something the voters of the state of Arizona have to do. And it can get there two different ways. It can get there through a citizen initiative, or it can get there through the legislature putting it on the ballot. They can refer it to the voters. And if indeed this is something that our Congress people, our senators, and our House of Representative folks would like to do, I would like to be on that subcommittee to try and help Representative Campbell, Representative Fan, in coming up with some of the ballot language and some of the things that need to be changed. But what you don't do is you don't get that fixed overnight. Government's very slow. And what we have to do right now is patch the bleeding. And if we can patch the bleeding to where we can figure out where to put the stitches, if you need stitches, and what things you can do, that's what we're trying to do right now, is just stop the bleeding temporarily. We know it doesn't fix the problem. We know you still have some of the same people down there making some of the same investments. All of that has to be fixed. Now, ARS is solvent. One of the reasons they're solvent even though they're guaranteed in the Constitution, of course, it's not as big a deal at 1-to-1 as compared to 4-to-1. And there's no guaranteed COLAs and stuff like that. It's a different plan. And maybe if we had given the time to come up with the right plan, it would be a more palatable solution to the voters in the state, rather than just coming up, throwing something at the wall so it'll stick. But right now, what we have to do in the city, which I'm elected to do, is to figure out how do we run the city come January 1st, 2016.
And that's when the first payment is due, is that correct?
We've been making payments all along. Okay, there's additional payments due January 1st. But that's when the roads change. Okay, that's huge. And we just have to see what the voters in Prescott say in August, and then start planning from August 26th forward. Now what do? How do we get there? The voters have said this to us. Okay, we'll go back to the drawing board and go forward.
One of the things about the tax for the pension plan that's on the ballot is that if it gets paid off sooner, one way or another, then the tax goes away.
That's right. That's right. And that's a good, that's a good thing, because if we can figure out something sooner, some way to do it sooner, if we come into some sort of a windfall, one of the things a lot of folks don't understand out there with, you hear a lot of lip service about selling off some of our assets. Well, the dollars that you generate out of those assets have to go back into the asset fund they were accrued from. I mean, you just can't take one for another. Now, you can loan it, but even if you do that, you still got interest and you still got to pay it back. It's not one of those things that you can just willy-nilly, so to speak, go into it without a plan.
Right. As far as the roads, right now, starting January 1st, there is a 0.75% tax that will go in to support the roads.
Right, and we will do the roads to the best of our capability at the 0.75 if that's what we have to work with. Understanding full well that the 0.75 will not take care and maintain the roads in the same level of service that 1 cent does. And we already know that the 1 cent is marginal.
Right. Anything else you want to say to the city of Prescott residents?
Well, sure, I love working with the city. I love helping. And I think there's rational ways to approach things without panicking. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are every bit as much rational from their state of mind as what I like to think I am. I'm not going to denigrate those folks for having their opinion. They're entitled to it, but I'm entitled to mine. And I would rather fix the problem than kicking it down the road. And you can't fix the problem if you don't have the funds to function.
It's true. You can't.
No.
Anything else you want to add?
No, not really. I mean, I think that the voters in Prescott are a very, very well-read group of people. They're not, you hear all this rhetoric on radio and TV and in the papers and everything about low-information voters. That's not the people of Prescott. The people of Prescott are very well-read. They're very knowledgeable on different issues, and they know what needs to be done. Most of the people that are here are either in the business world, or they're in management world, they're in the education world, they're in the retirement world, they've been around the block more than once. These are not the low-information voters that you might get in a different demographic area than you have in Prescott.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps.